There is a powerful truth we often overlook. Our lives are not defined by the massive moments of success, but by the small, consistent habits we practice every single day. We admire people who achieve extraordinary things, but we forget to ask the deeper question, what do they do every day to get there? The reality is that greatness isn't built in a single act, but through repetition, discipline, and a mindset that values progress over perfection. So what is this one habit that changes everything? It is the daily act of intentional reflection. Reflection is not simply thinking back. It is the practice of slowing down long enough to learn, to understand, and to realign ourselves with what truly matters. Most of us wake up and go through our day on autopilot, emails, tasks, meetings, responsibilities. By the time we pause, the day has already slipped away. Without reflection, we miss the lessons hidden in our experiences. We repeat the same mistakes, we lose sight of our priorities, and we end up chasing success without clarity or purpose. But when reflection becomes a daily habit, everything begins to shift. At the end of each day, if we ask ourselves just 3 questions, what went well? What didn't go well? What did I learn? We create a feedback loop that strengthens our awareness. We begin to notice patterns in our decisions, in our relationships, and even in our thinking. Slowly, we become more intentional with how we act, rather than reacting blindly to circumstances. This habit does not require hours of time or elaborate tools. Even 5 minutes of honest reflection can transform the way we see ourselves and our path forward. The reason it's so powerful is because reflection creates alignment. It aligns our actions with our values, our growth with our goals, and our choices with the person we want to become. Think about it this way: a ship only needs to adjust its course by a few degrees to end up in an entirely different destination. Reflection is that adjustment. Without it, we drift. With it, we navigate. Leaders who inspire, professionals who excel, and individuals who live with fulfillment all share this common thread. They don't just do more, they think deeply about what they're doing and why. They are learners every day, not just doers. So the invitation is simple: make reflection a daily ritual. Write a few lines in a journal, talk it out with a trusted friend, or take a quiet moment before bed. The method does not matter, the consistency does. Because the habit of reflection will sharpen your clarity, deepen your resilience, and expand your growth. And over time, you will realize something remarkable. This single daily practice doesn't just change how you live your days. It changes how you live your life. 5 keynotes of the speech: greatness is built on consistent small habits, not rare big moments. Daily intentional reflection is the habit that creates clarity and growth. Asking 3 simple questions: what went well, what didn't, what did I learn, can reframe every experience. Reflection acts as a course correction tool, aligning actions with values and goals. Consistency in reflection transforms not just days, but an entire life's direction. Greatness is built on consistent small habits, not rare big moments. When we think of the word greatness, our minds often jump to iconic achievements: world records, breakthrough inventions, inspiring speeches, or revolutionary leadership. We imagine the extraordinary moment when everything changes, the grand gesture that defines history, or the single victory that marks success. But the truth is, greatness does not emerge from these isolated peaks alone. What we admire as greatness is almost always the outcome of countless small, deliberate, and often unseen actions that have been repeated consistently over time. It is human nature to be drawn to big moments. They are easy to recognize, they make headlines, and they inspire awe. When we see an athlete stand on a podium with a gold medal, we celebrate that one defining instant. Yet what we fail to see are the thousands of mornings when that same athlete woke up before sunrise to train, the grueling hours of practice that no one applauded, and the sacrifices made when it would have been easier to rest. It is those quiet, consistent habits that make the moment of victory possible. Without them, the peak achievement never arrives. The same principle applies in every aspect of life. Think about relationships. A marriage is not strengthened by a single anniversary gift or a one-time declaration of love. It thrives because of the daily gestures of kindness, the patient conversations, the respect shown in small moments, and the willingness to listen. Trust and intimacy are built through repetition, through habits of care and attention that seem small in the moment but accumulate into something unshakable. In careers, too, success rarely comes from a single brilliant presentation or one bold idea. It comes from showing up every day prepared, being reliable, learning continuously, and building relationships one interaction at a time. The reason small habits are so powerful is because they compound. Just as money grows with interest, habits grow with consistency. A single day of effort may seem insignificant, but when multiplied over weeks, months, and years, it creates extraordinary results. Reading 10 pages of a book each night may not seem life-changing, but over a year it amounts to more than 3,000 pages of wisdom. Exercising for just 20 minutes each day might feel modest, but over time it strengthens the body and sharpens the mind. Writing a few thoughts in a journal each morning may appear trivial, yet it cultivates clarity, gratitude, and direction. Greatness is never sudden. It is the accumulated weight of these small acts repeated faithfully. The challenge is that small habits are easy to overlook because they do not deliver immediate gratification. We live in a culture that often glorifies instant success and dramatic transformation. We want to lose weight quickly, achieve promotions rapidly, or master a skill overnight. But sustainable growth does not work that way. If greatness depended on rare, extraordinary effort alone, very few people would ever reach it. What makes it accessible to everyone is the fact that greatness is built in the ordinary, in the daily choices that anyone can make. It is not reserved for the most talented, but for the most consistent. Another reason small habits are crucial is because they shape identity. Every time we follow through on a habit, no matter how small, we reinforce the kind of person we are becoming. When you choose to read instead of scrolling endlessly, you reinforce the identity of a learner. When you choose to exercise rather than avoid it, you reinforce the identity of someone who values health. When you choose to listen attentively in a conversation, you reinforce the identity of someone who respects others. Over time, these small votes for the person you want to be accumulate into character, and character is the foundation of greatness. It is also important to recognize that rare big moments are often outside our control. Opportunities for dramatic action may come or they may not. Circumstances, luck, and timing often play a role in whether we get that chance to shine. But small daily habits are always within our control. We may not control when the spotlight turns our way, but we can control how prepared we are when it does. And preparation is nothing more than the outcome of consistent effort. This perspective shifts how we view success. Instead of waiting for that big opportunity, we focus on what we can do today. Instead of hoping for transformation in one leap, we trust the process of gradual improvement. Instead of becoming discouraged by how far the destination feels, we take pride in each step forward. By doing so, we not only increase our chances of reaching greatness, but we also experience a sense of purpose and fulfillment along the way. Ultimately, greatness is not a destination reached in one extraordinary event. It is a journey built through ordinary days. The people we admire are not extraordinary because of one rare act. They are extraordinary because they chose to be consistent when no one was watching. They trusted the process, valued the small, and remained faithful to their habits even when progress was invisible. And in time, those small habits turned into something remarkable, something that changed not only their lives, but the lives of those around them. Daily intentional reflection is the habit that creates clarity and growth. When we move through our days without stopping to reflect, it is like walking through a dense forest without ever looking up at the trees or checking the path. We may keep moving, but we have no idea whether we are moving in the right direction. Life has a way of pulling us into constant activity, deadlines, responsibilities, conversations, decisions, and distractions. Without reflection, we become trapped in motion without meaning, busy but not purposeful, moving forward but not necessarily upward. Reflection is the moment that allows us to pause to ask deeper questions and to understand what is really happening inside and around us. Reflection is not the same as daydreaming. It is not the idle drifting of thoughts, but the intentional act of examining our experiences. It means looking at what happened in the day, what we said, how we acted, what we felt, and asking ourselves what it means. It is not about judgment, but about understanding. When we reflect intentionally, we are not trying to punish ourselves for mistakes or celebrate ourselves for successes. Instead, we are trying to learn. Reflection transforms experiences into lessons, and without it, even valuable experiences lose their power to change us. The reason reflection creates clarity is because it helps us cut through the noise. Every day, we are bombarded with messages, demands, and pressures. We make decisions under stress, we react emotionally, and we sometimes operate on autopilot. But when we take a few minutes to reflect, we begin to see patterns. We notice that we lose patience in similar situations, that we feel energized by certain tasks, that specific choices lead us closer to our goals while others pull us away. Over time, reflection makes these patterns so visible that we cannot ignore them. We start to recognize our triggers, our strengths, our weaknesses, and even our blind spots. This clarity gives us the power to make better choices tomorrow than we made today. Reflection also fuels growth because it transforms setbacks into stepping stones. Failure without reflection is just pain, but failure with reflection becomes progress. When something goes wrong, our first instinct is often to avoid thinking about it. But when we reflect with honesty, we ask why it went wrong, what we could have done differently, and what lesson is hidden in the experience. This transforms the failure into feedback. Reflection allows us to reframe challenges not as proof of weakness, but as opportunities for learning. Every mistake becomes a teacher, every difficulty becomes a chance to grow, and every success becomes a model we can repeat. Intentional reflection does not need to take long. It could be as simple as asking 3 questions at the end of the day. What went well? What didn't go well? What did I learn? These questions train the mind to find meaning in experience. Over time, this practice strengthens self-awareness in a way that naturally leads to personal and professional growth. The more aware we are of how we are living, the more control we have over shaping the life we want. Awareness is the first step to improvement, and reflection is the habit that cultivates awareness. Another reason reflection is so powerful is that it realigns us with our values. In the rush of daily life, it is easy to lose sight of what matters most. We might spend hours working on tasks that keep us busy but do not bring us closer to our vision. Reflection forces us to ask, did I live according to my values today? Did I treat people the way I want to treat them? Did I use my time in ways that reflect my priorities? These questions are not always comfortable, but they are necessary. They help us redirect ourselves, making sure we are not just moving fast, but moving in the right direction. Reflection also deepens gratitude. When we take time to look back at our day, we often notice moments we would have otherwise ignored. A kind word from a friend, a small success at work, a moment of laughter, or even the fact that we overcame a challenge we once thought impossible. These realizations remind us of the good that exists in our lives and fuel a sense of appreciation. Gratitude itself is transformative, shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance and from frustration to hope. What makes reflection different from passive thinking is intentionality. It is not about letting the mind wander aimlessly, but about guiding it to specific questions and insights. This is why many people choose to write in a journal, meditate, or have structured conversations with trusted mentors or friends. The method does not matter as much as the discipline of doing it consistently and with purpose. The daily act of reflection is like polishing a mirror. It clears away the dust so we can see ourselves and our lives more clearly. Over time, reflection creates a compounding effect. Each day we gain a little more clarity, a little more wisdom, and a little more understanding. These small increments add up, and after weeks, months, and years, the difference becomes enormous. People who practice daily reflection are more resilient in the face of challenges, more intentional in their decisions, and more aligned with their deeper purpose. They grow not by accident, but by design. Reflection is the bridge between experience and wisdom. Without it, we risk living the same day over and over again without change. With it, each day becomes an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to move closer to the life we truly want to live. Asking 3 simple questions: what went well, what didn't, what did I learn, can reframe every experience. At first glance, these questions may seem almost too simple, but their power lies in their ability to turn any day, whether successful or difficult, into a meaningful opportunity for growth. Most of us live through experiences without pausing to extract their lessons. We repeat the same mistakes, celebrate victories without understanding what made them possible, and overlook the countless small moments that shape our journey. But by practicing these 3 questions daily, we transform each experience into a stepping stone toward greater awareness, wisdom, and intentional action. The first question, what went well, may sound like an invitation to celebrate wins, but its value goes deeper than recognition. Asking what went well forces us to pause and acknowledge progress. Human beings are naturally wired to notice problems more than successes. We focus on what is missing, broken, or challenging, while overlooking the things that are functioning well. This mindset can make us feel as if we are constantly behind, no matter how much progress we have made. By deliberately asking what went well, we train our minds to see evidence of growth, to appreciate the small victories, and to understand which actions and habits are producing positive results. If you had a productive meeting because you prepared in advance, noticing this reinforces preparation as a habit worth repeating. If you had a great conversation with someone because you truly listened, noticing this strengthens the value of presence. Recognizing what went well is not only about feeling good, it is about identifying patterns worth sustaining. The second question, what didn't go well, is equally important because it keeps us honest. Without it, reflection risks becoming shallow or self-congratulatory. Asking what didn't go well is not about criticizing ourselves harshly, but about identifying areas that need improvement. It is a moment of truth, telling where we admit mistakes, poor decisions, or missed opportunities. For example, maybe we rushed through a task and compromised quality, or perhaps we allowed distractions to eat up valuable time, or we lost patience with someone and damaged trust. When we bring these moments into the open, they lose their power to repeat themselves unnoticed. What doesn't go well is often where the most valuable lessons hide. By examining these points, we create opportunities to adjust our behaviors, strategies, and attitudes. It is a way of saying to ourselves, this happened, it wasn't ideal, but I see it clearly and I will do better tomorrow. The third question, what did I learn, ties the first 2 together. Without learning, successes remain accidental and failures remain painful. But when we ask what we learned, we convert both positive and negative experiences into wisdom. The beauty of this question is that it transforms every moment into a teacher. If something went well, we can learn why it did and how to replicate it. If something didn't go well, we can learn what to avoid next time or how to approach it differently. Learning creates a bridge between experience and growth. It ensures that no day is wasted because even on the hardest days, there is always something to carry forward. What makes these 3 questions so powerful is their simplicity and universality. They can be applied in any context, personal, professional, or relational. A leader can use them after a meeting to understand how their team performed. A student can use them after an exam to identify study methods that worked and those that didn't. A parent can use them at the end of the day to reflect on how they showed up for their children. Even in moments of crisis, these questions bring perspective. They shift our focus from blame or despair toward clarity and constructive action. Another hidden strength of these questions is that they balance positivity with accountability. If we only ask what went well, we risk complacency. If we only ask what didn't, we risk discouragement. But together, these questions provide a complete picture of reality, celebrating progress, confronting shortcomings, and extracting lessons. This balanced reflection ensures that we remain motivated yet grounded, confident yet humble, proud yet willing to grow. Consistency in asking these questions builds resilience. Over time, we start to approach challenges differently because we know they will be part of our nightly reflection. Instead of fearing failure, we begin to see it as raw material for learning. Instead of being surprised by success, we begin to understand it as the outcome of specific behaviors and choices. Each day becomes less about surviving events and more about interpreting and learning from them. This shift in mindset is what reframes experience itself. Life stops feeling like a series of random events and starts feeling like a continuous process of growth. Even more, these questions encourage mindfulness. Knowing that you will ask yourself these questions at the end of the day makes you pay closer attention during the day. You start noticing in real time what is going well, what is not, and what insights are emerging. This makes reflection not just an end of day practice, but a way of living. It builds a habit of awareness that sharpens decision making, strengthens relationships, and deepens self-knowledge. Ultimately, the practice of asking these three questions ensures that no day is wasted. Each day, whether filled with triumphs or struggles, becomes a classroom. Each action becomes data, each choice becomes feedback, and each outcome becomes an opportunity for wisdom. It is not about being perfect, but about being learners every single day. And in the end, people who live with this mindset find that their lives are not defined by isolated successes or failures, but by the continuous growth born out of reflection. Reflection acts as a course correction tool, aligning actions with values and goals. In life, it is very easy to drift. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and without realizing it, we may find ourselves living in ways that do not reflect who we want to be or where we want to go. Drift does not happen suddenly. It happens gradually, one small compromise at a time, one distracted choice after another. And by the time we notice, we may already be far from the path we intended. This is where reflection plays its most crucial role. It is the practice of stopping long enough to look around, check our direction, and adjust our course before we stray too far. When sailors navigate the open sea, even the smallest deviation from course can eventually lead them hundreds of miles away from their destination. To prevent this, they constantly check their position and make slight adjustments. Reflection works in the same way for our lives. Without it, we may continue moving forward, but forward does not always mean toward the right destination. Reflection gives us the perspective to ask whether our daily actions are aligned with our deeper goals, whether our behavior matches our values, and whether our decisions are taking us closer to the life we want or further away. One of the reasons reflection is so powerful is that it forces us to pause in a world that glorifies speed. We are encouraged to move fast, achieve quickly, and stay busy. Yet speed without direction only leads us to arrive at the wrong place faster. Reflection slows us down just enough to ensure we are heading where we actually want to go. It gives us the chance to ask, am I spending time on the things that matter most? Am I acting in ways that reflect the kind of person I want to become? These questions are not easy, but they are essential. They bring our attention back to what is truly important and keep us from being consumed by what is merely urgent. Reflection also helps us navigate the tension between our values and external pressures. Many times, we act in ways that are influenced not by our own beliefs, but by expectations from others, our peer society, or even our workplace. We take on commitments that drain us, chase goals that do not inspire us, or behave in ways that do not align with our character. Over time, this creates an internal conflict that leaves us feeling unfulfilled, even if outwardly we appear successful. Reflection shines a light on these moments of misalignment. It makes us aware of the gap between what we value and what we are doing. And once we see that gap clearly, we can begin to close it by making better choices. Another way reflection acts as a course correction tool is by helping us prioritize. Every day presents us with countless tasks, demands, and distraction. So without reflection, we treat all of them as equally important and end up spreading ourselves too thin. But when we reflect, we can distinguish between what truly matters and what is simply noise. We start to see that not every email requires our immediate attention, not every opportunity aligns with our purpose, and not every task brings us closer to our goals. Reflection filters out the unnecessary so we can invest our energy in what will actually move us forward. Reflection also realigns us with long-term goals by reminding us of the bigger picture. Daily routines often trap us in the short term, meeting deadlines, handling emergencies, or completing tasks. While these are important, they can distract us from larger aspirations if we never pause to look up. Reflection allows us to step back and ask, is the way I am living today consistent with the future I want? This question prevents us from sacrificing long-term fulfillment for short-term convenience. It encourages us to endure temporary discomfort when it serves a greater purpose and to avoid temptations that may offer quick rewards but undermine long-term success. In addition, reflection strengthens integrity. Living in alignment with values means not only setting goals, but also staying true to principles like honesty, kindness, respect, or fairness. These are not always easy to uphold, especially when circumstances tempt us to compromise. Through reflection, we can evaluate whether we acted with integrity in our choices, whether we treated people the way we aspired to treat them, and whether our actions reflected the standards we claim to hold. By asking these questions regularly, we develop the self-awareness and courage needed to live consistently with our values, even when it is difficult. What makes reflection uniquely effective as a course correction tool is its ability to turn small adjustments into lasting change. Just as a ship only needs to adjust its course by a few degrees to end up in a completely different place, we too can make tiny shifts in our daily choices that transform our entire journey. Reflection helps us identify those small but significant adjustments, spending more time with loved ones, dedicating a few minutes to learning, saying no to something that does not align with our goals, or being more present in conversations. On their own, these adjustments may seem minor, but over time, they accumulate into a life lived with greater clarity, purpose, and alignment. The most successful and fulfilled people are rarely the ones who never stray off course. They are the ones who notice quickly when they do and correct it. Reflection ensures that we are not blindly repeating patterns that pull us away from our best selves. It keeps us accountable, grounded, and intentional. Each time we reflect, we give ourselves the chance to steer back toward the values and goals that matter most. And by doing so regularly, we do not just move through life, we move in the right direction. Consistency in reflection transforms not just days, but an entire life's direction. The power of reflection is not in doing it once or occasionally, but in turning it into a daily practice. Just as brushing your teeth once will not protect your health, reflecting once in a while will not reshape your life. It is the steady rhythm, the repeated habit that builds momentum and leads to transformation. The small act of looking back at each day, learning from it, and adjusting for tomorrow creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond the day itself. It influences weeks, months, and eventually the entire arc of a person's life. When we reflect consistently, each day becomes a building block for growth rather than an isolated event. Without reflection, days pass by like pages turned in a book we never read. But when reflection becomes routine, those pages are studied, understood, and connected into a meaningful story. Instead of drifting from one day to the next, we begin to see continuity. We recognize how one choice influenced another, how habits are shaping our path, and how our progress is accumulating. Reflection stitches together the fragments of our experiences into a coherent narrative, one that we can learn from and intentionally guide. Consistency is also what makes reflection powerful because growth happens gradually. One moment of insight can feel inspiring, but unless it is reinforced, it fades quickly. When we reflect daily, insights compound. The small lessons from yesterday are reinforced by the lessons of today, and together they inform the choices of tomorrow. Over time, this layering of wisdom creates depth of understanding and maturity of judgment. We begin to anticipate problems before they happen, notice patterns earlier, and make better decisions without hesitation because we have trained ourselves through consistent learning. Another transformative aspect of consistent reflection is how it strengthens self-awareness. A single reflection may reveal one mistake or one strength, but daily reflection reveals patterns. Over weeks, we notice that we are consistently energized by certain activities and drained by others. We realize that specific habits bring us closer to our values while others lead us away. We see recurring triggers that spark frustration or repeated moments that generate joy. This deeper awareness cannot be achieved in one sitting. It is cultivated over time through repetition. The more consistently we reflect, the more clearly we understand ourselves, and the more empowered we become to design a life aligned with our authentic identity. Consistency in reflection also builds discipline. It requires setting aside time, even if it is only a few minutes, to pause in a world that demands constant motion. In making reflection a non-negotiable part of the day, we practice self-control and commitment. Discipline in one area often spills over into others. By keeping the habit of reflection, we strengthen the muscle of consistency itself, which can then be applied to health, learning, relationships, and work. The habit teaches us that meaningful change does not come from intensity, but from regularity, from showing up each day and doing the work, however small. Furthermore, daily reflection transforms perspective on failure and success alike. Success can make us overconfident, while failure can make us discouraged, but consistent reflection keeps both in balance. When we succeed, reflection reminds us to ask why it went well and what we can learn from it, rather than assuming success is permanent. When we fail, reflection helps us see the lessons and prevents us from defining ourselves by setbacks. In both cases, consistency creates emotional stability. It trains us to process experiences with a growth mindset, ensuring that neither triumph nor defeat derails our journey. Reflection practice consistently also influences relationships. By regularly examining how we interact with others, we become more mindful of our words, actions, and presence. We start to notice if we are listening well, if we are expressing appreciation, or if we are letting frustration spill over unfairly. Over time, these insights improve the way we connect with people, making relationships deeper, healthier, and more meaningful. The impact of consistent reflection on relationships is profound because it helps us build trust, empathy, and respect, qualities that cannot be sustained by occasional good intentions alone. Another life-changing impact of consistent reflection is the sense of direction it gives. Many people go through life reacting to circumstances rather than creating their path. Reflection breaks this cycle. When done daily, it reminds us of our goals and values, keeps them fresh in our minds, and ensures our actions are aligned with them. Even when external events are unpredictable, reflection keeps us anchored to what truly matters. Over years, this anchoring effect changes not only our immediate choices, but the overall trajectory of our lives. We move from being passive participants in life to active authors of our story. Consistency also magnifies gratitude. Daily reflection often brings to light small blessings that would otherwise be overlooked. A supportive colleague, a productive hour, a meaningful conversation, or even the resilience to endure a difficult day. By noticing these moments consistently, gratitude becomes a habit. This habit shifts the lens through which we see the world, making us more optimistic, resilient, and grounded. A grateful mindset is not built in a single reflection. It is cultivated by noticing good things again and again until appreciation becomes second nature. Ultimately, what transforms life is not the act of reflecting once, but the habit of doing it consistently. Days that might otherwise blur into routine become meaningful steps in a purposeful journey. Lessons that could have been forgotten become wisdom that guides the future. Failures that might have discouraged us become feedback that strengthens us. Successes that might have blinded us become stepping stones rather than destinations. Reflection, when practiced daily, does not just change how we experience days, it rewrites the course of entire life, guiding it toward clarity, alignment, and fulfillment. Greatness is not the result of luck, nor is it found in a single breakthrough moment. It is the outcome of the habits we choose to repeat every day. Among all the habits available to us, intentional reflection stands apart because it shapes how we think, how we act, and ultimately who we become. Reflection helps us celebrate progress, confront challenges, and extract wisdom from every experience. It realigns us with our values, keeps us on course toward our goals, and ensures that no day is wasted. When practiced consistently, it builds resilience, sharpens clarity, and transforms the direction of our entire lives. The choice is ours. We can move through life on autopilot, letting circumstances define our path, or we can take just a few minutes each day to reflect, learn, and realign. That simple act, repeated faithfully, has the power to change not just our days, but the story of our lives. The one daily habit that truly changes everything is reflection. And when we embrace it, we unlock the ability to grow with intention, live with clarity, and build a legacy worth leaving.